Hello, hello. He's Rob. I'm Mo. Welcome to our brand new show. Mate, it's exciting, isn't it?
I know, right? We trialled this, for those who don't know, years ago, and we did it, got lots of good energy from it, and then he pulled us. Neil cancelled us.
Yes, but we are back, and we are back ready and willing to give you everything you want to know about the world of Liverpool FC in the last 7 days. It is exciting. Even more exciting is that we are in association with Saley. Yes, the good people at Saley have decided that this show is one of the ones they want to hit their wagon to. Now, you all know about Saley by now. If you don't, it's a brand new eSIM service from our friends at NordVPN. Wherever you can go in the world, 200 countries, 8 different regions, you can get several affordable eSIM plans. So you're not going to have to be stuck with any big, nasty holiday bills of telephones.
Who wants that, Mo?
No one wants that.
No one wants that.
No one wants that. And this is why Saley have come to play. And already we've heard so many great things about their service from our subscribers, from our users as well. The boys have just come back from the Far East and they were Saleyed up to the max.
I heard that Alexander Isak, while he was training out in Sociedad, was using a Saley eSIM.
Oh, really?
I haven't had it confirmed, but the source is fairly confident.
You heard it here first. Now, if you want to join Alexander Isak as much as we want him to join us, all you need to do is download the Saley app onto your phone, scroll through all the plans down there, choose the best one for you. Follow the very easy instructions on the app, install your eSIM. The Saley eSIM will be activated instantly when landing in your destination.
Do that again.
Instantly.
That's very quick.
I join the many tour subscribers who've really taken advantage of this fantastic service. Download the Saley app in the App Store. Scan the QR code when it comes up on screen. Make sure you use the code TAW. When you check out, you get 15% extra off. What more can we do for you?
They're getting a lot of value for a sponsor, considering this is just a 30-minute show as well.
I tell you, I mean, you know what? I think that they're worth it, though. They've proven themselves in the market. And
let's just show them how much it's worth it, Mo. Come on.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
All right, it's
Football,
time to get down to business.
soccer.
Yes, we are talking about the big stories that have happened in the last 7 days. And surprisingly enough, the biggest story is still Alexander Isak. Now, I don't know about you, Rob, but I feel like a summer transfer window isn't complete without a proper saga. And sometimes I enjoy it better when we're not involved, but this time we are heavily involved.
Yeah, you know, when this one loomed into view, and I think it's quietly been nearly a month since that first story broke, I don't know, where most of the major local patch journalists said there's talk that Liverpool would be prepared to spend 120 million on Alexander Isak. And I think all of us had to sit down when that news broke. We went, oh, no way, dare to dream. Because the Isak story had been very, very quiet, despite having been touted all through last season that if Liverpool need a striker, he'd be the main one we'd go for. But it had gone really quiet. Newcastle had qualified for the Champions League. Everyone assumed not for sale at all. And then it reared its head. I think when it broke, I think you then say, if this is going to be real, it's going to be a saga. Yes. You don't just get to sign world record, whatever, players in a couple of days. No. You know, Joycey announces done and dusted, leaning at Melwood or wherever, or the Axe within 24 hours. It just doesn't happen like that.
It's not the modern world.
No, but I think quietly a month has gone by, and I'm getting impatient. Well, I'm not going to lie, mate.
The thing is, though, what you say is so true, because think about the Florian Wirtz situation, right?
Yeah.
You had 3 kind of happy parties. Liverpool wanted to buy him, Wirtz wanted to come, Leverkusen were willing to sell to Liverpool. There was no one at other clubs involved, and that still took an extra 2 weeks from that point. So we were a little bit maybe premature to think that this wasn't going to go one way, but there's been so many twists and turns, and I think because we've had so much mileage in it, so many mini stories and so many people trying to make big stories out of teeny little stories, it feels like it's been going on forever and ever and ever. The interesting thing that came out over the weekend, though, was what we've heard from Newcastle, because Newcastle, and their only mouthpiece at the moment really is Eddie Howe, if you ignore some of the big journalists.
He's why do they always put the manager in the way, by the way? The director of football should get themselves in front of a camera.
Because he's the only one who's legally obligated to do it, that's why.
Yeah,
and the rest of them are quite cowardly.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
So anyway, Eddie Howe is the one who's spoken, and some of what he said has raised eyebrows around that time, because he was very much like, well, Liverpool haven't made any bids, so we can't really talk about it until Liverpool made any bids. And then you started to hear a few beat journalists talk about, well, Newcastle can't really do anything because they haven't put any bids in. And it's like, hang on a minute. Are you saying that you want us to put bids in? Are you saying that Liverpool not putting bids in is holding up your business? Well, how about this then? Then Liverpool put in a bid. And then it's been go time.
Yeah, I know. Just not the bid they liked. I mean, I've spoken about this a lot on the award-winning Transfer Gutter show.
Of course you have.
But there is a part of me. I mean, obviously the Newcastle fans got triggered by the way it was reported that we'd really lowballed on this. We'd indicated we were going to bid around 120 million, and we didn't even get to that level. It was 110 million. But Liverpool have been very, very quiet. All of this has been speculation and supposition from Liverpool side. The only people doing the talking, quite frankly, have been Newcastle in the form of the hapless Eddie, and via their local patch journalists who the club seem to be happy to brief on a daily basis, I mean twice daily basis, and quite specifically. And also at times a little bit offensively, using terms like Liverpool's bid was so low, it's a sign they've bottled it. They're embarrassed that they turned the player's head. They're just trying to get out of it in front of their fans. Some real snidey stuff is coming out. I think Liverpool's bid, whilst it's low in the context of Newcastle having upped the ante considerably, and there was a point in last season where there was talk that it would take £120 million to lure Alexander Isak away from Newcastle. By the turn of the year, it had become £150 million. At some stage, one of the Newcastle directors, I think, was heard saying it could cost 200 million. Then you heard last week the bidding would have to start at 150 million. Newcastle, quite frankly, I know they don't want to sell, they're not obligated to, but they are pulling figures out of the frigging air. We've just sort of, I am ranting here, Mo. I will.
That's literally what this show is for.
I know. Well, we literally bought the most exciting young player in world football, Florian Wirtz, for what, 115, 116 million pounds. There's your marker point. He's younger than Alexander Isak. I'll accept Alexander Isak is Premier League proven. He's a striker. That carries a premium. Of course, he's dearer than Alexander Isak when push comes to shove. But Liverpool aren't outside their rights to sort of anchor the price back in their direction.
He's not £35 million dearer by those metrics.
No.
And I mean, it's an important thing to point out that obviously the selling club is the one who gets to set the fee. That's the whole point. And we've been in that situation on the other side, so I don't want to go too heavy on that. But by that same rationale, the idea that Liverpool are going to do all of this legwork, but then if the deal can't be made, they're going to walk away. They're not just going to bend to say, okay, well, 150, you got us bang to rights, we're going to have to pay that. Do you think that there is a hard line in the sand number for Liverpool, and what do you think it is?
I think there's always a hard line number in the sand for both parties, right? If Liverpool's stuck on 110, I think Newcastle would be able to say to their discontented player, whilst that's a lot of money, you know that's not enough. You know that's not enough. Likewise, I think if Newcastle sat on their 150 figure, the player can turn his head the other way and go, hang on, Newcastle, you know that's a piss take. You know you can't hold me hostage for that amount of money. And he's the key arbiter here up to do. Now, people can talk all they like about the contract, but we don't know what was said to the footballer behind the scenes. Of course, players should behave in a certain way. They should honour contracts, but clubs are also duty-bound to honour what they've said to their players.
And I think that's what we've seen a lot this summer, because he's not the only one who's disgruntled. We've seen Johan Whistle at Brentford, who's also come into this kind of tangled web. And both instances, it feels like there are promises made to footballers by clubs at some point earlier on in the season that are now not being honoured. Whistle was apparently told there'd be a fee. If someone triggered that, he'll be allowed to go. Isak has apparently let Newcastle know multiple times over the last season this was going to be his last year, this was going to be his final run. And now it appears that Newcastle aren't ready for that. And it's a strange situation, really, because like you say, we are in a world where players have got more power than they've ever had. The idea of a disgruntled player going back into the dressing room almost seems like it's completely impossible the way it's almost situated. But is it impossible? I think of two really obvious examples. So Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz wanted to leave last summer.
Yep.
Didn't get his move.
Yep.
Didn't exactly affect him. He had his best season for Liverpool. This season he gets his move, happy days. Anthony Gordon wanted to come to Liverpool last summer. Didn't. By all accounts, had a bit of a sulk about it. Had to be talked around. But they did talk him round. So it's not impossible for Newcastle to be able to say to Isak, look, maybe you do give us one more year. Like today, literally, is the day when Howe and Isak are going to talk for the first time since all this is broken. So you never know. Maybe his powers of persuasion are bigger than we thought.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of examples. I mean, Liverpool were able to use Steven Gerrard to talk around Luis Suarez to give us 1 year, release clause, etc. I don't think Napoli were able to talk around. Well, they don't know if they wanted to. I mean, Victor Osimhen ends up going on strike of sorts and then getting a loan deal. So there are options open here, but it all really the great X factor is what has been said behind the scenes to this footballer, what he believes in his heart of hearts was said to him. Whether he's got the WhatsApp messages as receipts, we don't know effectively. What his teammates believe, we don't know. There's an optics thing for Newcastle. They don't want to be seen to be looking weak, but at the same time, they can't look like they're holding a player hostage. I think if they'd thought one of the options was tough it out till September the 1st when the transfer window slams shut, I don't think you'd have seen them scurrying around in the transfer market the way you've seen them doing it. They are briefing that they need a replacement in before they'd consider letting Alexander Isak go. What they mean is they will sell him if they get replacements in. This begs a question, though, if I were the footballer, and we often talk about the two clubs and keep forgetting he is the key element here. If I were the footballer, I go, you knew some considerable time ago that I wanted to call the season just gone my last season. You knew that. It was even in the media a month ago that Liverpool were coming in, and you've known this is happening. It's incumbent upon you to have got your replacements in good time. It can't be that I get denied my, let's call it what it is, my dream move, because you haven't got your act together in the transfer market. That would be his argument.
That would be his argument. Probably the counter argument from Newcastle is, well, we tried. They tried with Mbeumo, it didn't come off. They tried with João Pedro, it didn't come off. And now, this is I think one of the maddest things about this situation is that now Liverpool fans are in a situation where we're now begging, cheering Newcastle on to try and buy footballers. We're desperate for them to buy Benjamin Sesko. Now it appears we might even be desperate for Brentford to buy someone so that they can sell Newcastle Vissa, so then we can start this dominoes rolling.
Yeah, it is a bit mad. Yes, of course they can say they've tried, but a player's going to go, I don't know how hard you've tried. What did you offer?
Yeah.
You know, what were the terms? How competent were you about it? You haven't got a bloody director of football in. You haven't even got a chief executive in at the moment. So tried from a losing position. You know, you went for Ekitike knowing full well that Liverpool were front runners for him.
That was a clusterfuck. There's no getting around that.
You know, Benjamin Sesko, they're slapping a bid in for a player who hasn't committed, who hasn't even said he wants to play for them, really, quite frankly. So tried, I don't know. Maybe you could argue maybe they're pitching too high. Who can say? I think there was a new name came into the fore last night or yesterday. A guy whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I can't remember it fully. He plays for Porto up front, I think. Did you see the guy's name? But this is what gets me about football. When you think you know all the big names in world football, I think, finally I know them all. This guy goes, Porto are going to want 80 million. I thought, for fucking who? But this lad, never heard of him.
But that, again, that's taking advantage of the market, isn't it? That's Porto.
Oh, yeah.
That's Porto sitting back and saying, these idiots are going to fight it out. They're going to throw money at each other and we're going to end up getting some that's dropped off the table. But, okay, final point on this before we move on. The biggest thing I think is looming large in all of this, Liverpool have to play a Premier League football match at St James's Park 1 week before the window closes. Now, I've always been of the opinion Alexander Isak is not playing in that game for either team.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that we'll have seen a deal done by then, or do you think we'll see a deal done immediately after then? And do you think that the PR disaster of him turning up in a red shirt and banging a few in is one of the things Newcastle are trying to avoid at all costs?
People have suggested that the clubs could do a deal where Isak was excluded from that game specifically as a clause. I don't know if that would be unprecedented. I mean, obviously with loan deals, you can't play against your parent club. To block that, I don't know. I think to delay, let's put it this way, say this began to come together in the next week. I don't see them then going, let's give this another 3 weeks so we can get the other side of that fixture. I think the players are going to go, fuck off with that. If you want me to feign an injury again, I'm well versed in this art. You know, I won't play. Scout's honour, you know. I don't think anybody mature should really be thinking too much about that and what happens that day. I mean, Isak himself, it'd be a cauldron for him to go to St James's Park and face the hate, quite frankly. And he may not fancy it. Liverpool, it might simply be that if we have got him by then, that Arne Slot goes, I'm just not picking the football. It's one of those things that I did a gentleman's agreement with Eddie Howe. I spoke to the player about it. It's not appropriate. There's too much passion involved.
You can talk about how little first team training he's had because of all of this, and say, he needs time to get up to speed. I like Chiesa last season. To be honest, I'm not sure Liverpool will need him. I feel like Hugo Ekitike is going to go there and bag a couple. So.
Well, yeah. Either way, any way you riddle this, it's a grudge match. Joe Linton doesn't need winding up at the best of times.
No, honestly, Sky Sports are sitting there rubbing their hands watching all this unfold. But anyway,
okay,
let's move on because it is game day. In fact, it is double game day today. Liverpool return to Anfield for the first time since the last time they picked up the Premier League trophy. They were playing 2 games against Athletic Bilbao. Before we get into everything, I think it is important to recognise that this is the first time we'll be coming to Anfield since the loss of Diogo. A lot of the players have been speaking about how they want to make it special and how they want to mark it. I think it's been notable how brilliantly everybody has dealt with this, from the club, from the coaching staff to the players to the fans. And this was always going to be one of the staging posts that would be one of the most emotional. And I feel like it's going to be that way again.
Yeah, I felt that I didn't want people to be critical of whatever the club or anybody else did. There was no wrong way to do this. It's certainly in our Liverpool sporting lifetime, in terms of a loss of a player, it's unprecedented. Yeah. I didn't know how to handle it when it happened. I still don't know quite how to process it. I don't know how I'm going to feel tonight being back in that stadium. Liverpool have handled themselves really, really well, as has the football world, quite frankly. I mean, it's been wonderful. There's very little solace you can bring to a family that have suffered that loss, but I hope in some tiny, tiny way that the sheer weight of the support and love that's emanated from the football community will have done that family some good. And I look forward to the day that they feel ready to maybe come back to Anfield, maybe to see a statue or whatever else we've put as a permanent marker of our love and respect for Diogo. So yes, it'll be an emotional night.
Absolutely. It's going to be a long night as well. Now, Liverpool have done this before with his 2 back-to-back games. They did it last season against Sevilla and Las Palmas. And I've seen a couple of other teams do it again. It's started to become in vogue. But it feels like between getting there early, getting a few beers in and on the concourse, to the final whistle of the second game.
And then getting another few beers.
It's going to be like 6 hours. Like, I'm not going, I'm been watching it at home, but you are going to be there. Like,
at least I get the break of the game to not have beers in. You could be a 7-hour beer-a-thon. Jesus.
I mean, I probably won't.
You're a modern professional. Sorry, I'm not alluding to an alcoholic.
I quite a beer-heavy weekend, so I'm probably going to take it easy. But the point is that there is a very real possibility that by the second half of the second game, a lot of people in the stand are absolutely wasted.
There's all that. Do you know what I'm wondering? Is obviously we know Arna's MO in terms of how he picks teams pre-seasons. He tends to go with a first team heavy first team. If you like. He hasn't done it quite as strictly this pre-season as he did last pre-season. Although I think the last game, the 60-minute players were all more or less the very best he could pick on the day, given availability. Now, which way round will he do it this time? Is he going to go with the A squad, the 5 o'clock game, or is he going to make us all stay? Because no disrespect to some of the kids, I might have had enough by the second half of the second game. It's a tricky one, if it's not the A squad. I think it might be testing people's patience, I think, to not put the first team out in the first game. What's your hunch on it?
I agree with you. I do think, obviously, like you say, it's a risk, particularly because there's going to be some substitutions involved as well. So if you're thinking down the kind of the depth chart into substitutions from the second string who aren't going to be substitutions in the first game, then there might well be a lot of the younger players involved. And like you say, it's been a long day. People might be thinking, okay, well, nothing exciting or interesting or informative is going to happen in these last 25, 30 minutes. So
no,
I can see that world. It might actually depend upon what Bilbao do, Because if they put their strongest team out in the second game, then yeah.
That'd be funny by that. No, surely the managers agree.
You'd hope so. But you wouldn't want the last game. You wouldn't want to lose the last game. And I know that results in pre-season don't matter, yada, 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 but you don't want to lose the last game.
No, apparently they do matter now. Haven't you heard the memo? Since Man United started winning some pre-season games, apparently they are now extremely important. I mean, I shit you not. I mean, pre-season results. We had a good pre-season last season, and I think it helped. I think it helped as much as anything because we had a new manager who people needed to get behind. I think if we'd lost every pre-season game, as I think we did one year under Jurgen, people might go, "Oh shit!" Right? But I think Jurgen had the currency, which it didn't really matter. I mean, I remember the 87-88 Liverpool team, the first team which had Barnes and Beardsley in. If I remember rightly, that's a long while ago, it had a relatively wretched pre-season, lost quite a few games. So these things don't. You can't draw a graph as to how what they augur in the games ahead. Having said that, the closer to the action you get, it's nice to get a feel-good factor, especially at Anfield. But I want to win the game with the A squad in.
Yeah.
The B squad one, I don't know. As much as anything, actually, I don't want to see injuries at the stage of the season.
Well, yeah, that's the most important thing for sure. Okay, so let's kind of dive in a little bit into what is the A squad then. Because there are some key decisions, really. There are a few battles players who are looking to see who the manager favours ahead of not only the Community Shield, but then the start of the season. I'm thinking mainly at fullback on both sides. You've got players who are thinking that maybe they're going to be the first choice and we don't know. But the one I want to concentrate on at the moment is the midfield, because obviously we've got Ryan Gravenberch, who's suspended for the first game of the season. We've got Alexis McAllister, who's a little bit behind everybody else in terms of his preparation. He came back late, he had the injury from the end of last season. So what are you doing with those two? Are you trying to get the two who you want to play at Palace or Bournemouth?
The Gravenberch question is, for me, you have to put blinkers on and go, you don't have to prepare for one game over the course of these 3 pre-season games. Also, quite frankly, Bournemouth at home is a game where you expect to be on the front foot, and if you could pick, I don't want to tempt fate. They had a good season last season, obviously, but if you want to pick the sort of game where you could live without Ryan Gravenberch, potentially, it would be on your list. So I'd rather us be working towards the systems we're going to be facing at St James's Park 9 days after that and thereafter. So I don't think I can't see Gravenberch being left out. Certainly not this far away from Bournemouth, just to prepare for that. Arne might take a different view by the time we get to the Charity Shield and go, this is literally the last game before Bournemouth, so I'm going to go with the same team here.
And also, obviously, Grav is available for that game, so it's not like he's banned for that one. So in theory, he could say, well, I can maybe put him on the bench and then he comes off the bench in that game or whatever the configuration is. But I'm fascinated to see exactly how it goes down. I think that it's going to be a really, really interesting. I think it's going to be exciting because we're still getting to see some players kind of make those connections. And obviously, the second game, one thing we are going to see is players who are maybe trying to put an audition in to keep themselves in the squad. Because at the moment, even getting on the bench for that first Premier League game is probably going to be quite a battle.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is we've still got some players who have got one foot out the door in the squad. But until we've got our replacement, well, let's not mince words here. Darwin Núñez is a key question mark over his head. I mean, Darwin's a good player who's had a reasonable pre-season. In fact, it started quite well. Got 3 goals in a couple of games. If we don't get Alexander Isak over the line before the end of the transfer window, even before the start of the season, Darwin Núñez is going nowhere. Well, we'd be leaving ourselves far too short. Liverpool, I feel that Chiesa will go and has passed his useful life at Liverpool if it ever got going. No disrespect to him, injuries, other thing that we will cite in years to come as to why his career never got going for Liverpool. Obviously, we had the horrific loss to Diogo. We have sold Luis Diaz. So it means the season is likely to start with 3 less players available in our forward options than were last season, and Núñez would make it a 4th. So we're not in a position really to discard Darwin Núñez from our thoughts just yet, to think about him not being in squads. Harvey Elliott's another case in point. Harvey is not quite as out the door as Darwin Núñez. It's not the same sort of talk. The key to so many puzzles here is really how Liverpool are going to settle on using Florian Wirtz, to my mind. There's so much talk about Arne will use him here, he will use him there, he's flexible. Sure, he can play as an advanced 8, he can play as a false 9, not dissimilar positions at times. You can cut in from the left. There's a range of options. But ultimately, and Arne Slot showed this last season, he does quite like a settled set-up and side. And if Wirtz is one of the 3 in midfield, that puts Harvey further through the door. If Wirtz is one of the front 3, Harvey suddenly needed a bit more. So these things all have knock-ons to each other.
Absolutely. Watch this space, everybody. So if it turns out that Liverpool agree a deal to sell Darwin Núñez, expect to see Isak. But one last thing before we leave, there's something we wanted to put into this show, an important part, beyond the wheel of what's happening in the last 7 days. Every now and then there's going to be something that you or I, it's just going to be ticking in the back of our head. And we feel we need to get it out.
Is this the what grinds my gears section?
This is kind of what grinds my gears section.
I'm looking forward to this.
I kind of wanted to call it Here's the Thing, but essentially it's what grinds my gears section.
Here's the thing, Mo.
Here's the thing with this, man.
It's a catchphrase.
Yeah. So, kind of contrary to not only the entire football world, but the rest of the company for whom we're working, kits. I have to talk about kits. And when I say I have to talk about kits, what I mean is I'd rather not talk about kits, because you know what? I really don't care about kits. I know this sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I know that everybody else is desperate to have an opinion on the new kit every year, and whether it's better than this one or better than that one, how it compares to this team or that team, how it compares to years gone by, and whether Liverpool always do well in a kit like this or a kit like that, and does it need to have long sleeves, short sleeves, does it need to have this kind of badge, that kind of badge, this or the other. Guys, it's red. Liverpool wear it. They kick a football in it. They win football games. That's the beginning and the end of my interest in kits.
And the majority of you aren't fucking children. Right? Even when I was a kid, the last time I gave a shit about our kids, and it didn't change that often, admittedly, when I was younger, but the momentum did grow through the 80s. I soon realised that by the time I was sitting at the back of a terrace or the back of a stand, the kits just looked the same year in, year out. And the only thing that changed in recent years, sometimes the tonality of the red. There was one year where the red got quite dark and quite wine-coloured. That wound me up. There is a Liverpool red, right? But beyond that, and people go, oh, this Adidas kit, oh my God. What I love is people who've got no qualifications aesthetically, right? I don't know, where do they go to the Paris fashion show every year? What the fuck do they know about anything aesthetically? I'm not saying they do or they don't, but who says they do? They go, well, that's clearly a great kit. Why? Why is it? Why do you know that it's a great kit?
I want to see what you wear the other 7 days of the week.
You fucking meths. Who knows what you... But broadly speaking, I don't care. As long as it's red. I mean, I was mildly... You've got me triggered. I did used to get, and I still do, mildly wound up when there's too much white in the kit. I noticed when we were in the 80s, in my formative years, we wore our beautiful red kit with a bit of a gold badge and a little bit of white trim. Bayern Munich played in all red, but it didn't look anywhere near as powerful or as impressive as our red. You know why? Because it had friggin' Adidas piping all over the show, down there, round the collar, everywhere. It didn't have that same, an all-red kit should look like. And although people, up close go, that's a nice shirt, I might wear that out, weirdos, but they might. It's not the same. It's not a Liverpool kit in the purest sense of the word.
No, and
so I'm being a hypocrite here. So I don't care, but I do care.
But I mean, we're old men. We're allowed to be hypocrites. It's fine. The point being is that for me, I don't think it deserves as much attention and inches. Now, obviously, there's the change of manufacturers, so there was always going to be a fanfare.
Big whoopee. Who cares?
So obviously, the balance sheet is probably the bit I care the most about in terms of this new Adidas deal, because it looks rather rosy. And I'm quite happy for that.
But would you have given a shit if Nike paid the same money?
No,
who cares?
Not at all. I do think, speaking of Nike, I do think the biggest mistake they made was they did not make enough of LeBron James. I think LeBron James is an absolute global superstar, and Liverpool didn't put him in one advert. Not one. What is that about? But the kit, and look, I just want to make this clear, right? If you are someone who absolutely cares about kits and all that kind of stuff, more power to you. Crack on. I don't mind. Just don't expect me to care. Like, generally, don't expect me to care. I don't have an answer for you. So someone said to you, what's your favourite kit? The one with Liverpool won in. That's my favourite kit.
I was flabbergasted a little bit. I shouldn't have been. That the day the kit was launched and all the photos were coming out on the site, some of the Isak news was getting really, really big, and I thought, I care about us signing the best striker in the world here. I don't, as long as he's wearing all red, that is the objective.
Like, if you'd have brought him out into the kit launch, then I'd have been watching.
That would have had my attention, yeah.
By the way, Liverpool next year, if you ever do decide you want to announce a new player during a kit launch, I am 1,000% behind it. Speaking of being 1,000% behind things, that's the end of our first show. I hope you are 1,000% happy that we are doing it, and we will be doing another one very much next week. Rob?
Next week already?
Next week.
Jeez, they need to pay us more.
I know.
Or something.
Well, that's a debate for another day. Until then, see you later.